Hey guys, I wish it was under better circumstances, but I'm very excited to be here and for you guys all taking the time. My name is Shay Preek. I'm the founder of a company called Jam. And with Jam, more so now than ever, what we believe in the genesis for why Jam exists is that what we talk about in that of a crisis of communication happening in today's workplace. And what that means, let's see if this works. Yeah. What that means is that in today's networked age, in today's employee experience, we somehow tricked ourselves into believing that the elusive things like innovation and employee engagement and collaboration come through persistent online communication, right? So you see this proliferation of communication tools that have really just made the employee experience incredibly noisy, right? But if we take a step back and we really think, it's kind of a crazy thing to think that's where those things like innovation and creativity come from. They come through what we talk about as casual collisions, right? So different employees within the company with different perspectives coming together in a way that unlocks the things like the innovation and engagement and creativity that we all know moves businesses forward. But the problem is that in today's, again, in-networked age, as well as now as more employees are going working remotely, these casual collisions are becoming a rare occurrence, a rare breed in the organization, right? So as a consequence, though we are persistently connected 24/7, no one really within an organization is talking to one another. And that's why we're building Jam. And so with Jam, we know that more increased face-to-face conversations that are otherwise not happening within an organization can do wonders for a company's bottom line. And so very simply, the tool that we're pitching today, and that we have the capability to stand up, and that what we've seen a spike of interest over the past few weeks, is very simply a tool that can recommend and schedule face-to-face conversations between employees, and it's designed primarily to increase knowledge sharing across different teams and different offices and different silos within a company. And so diving a little to how Jam actually works, and we can actually use a real example here. The first point to make very clearly is that Jam works on an opt-in basis, right? We don't believe in mandatory fun or forcing a certain employee experience, right? The way we built this is to work on opt-in basis. And so using a real example, one of our customers, they're an investment bank. And so how this would work is, as this gets rolled out within the organization, Rattler, for example, opts in by telling us who he is primarily. So he's an associate that sits on the management team, but then figuring out how do we make this most valuable for the employee's use of time, right? Not a random connection, or how can this really drive value, contextual value for the individual employee, and then as a consequence, benefit the entire organization. So Rattler would opt in by telling us he wants better access to learn about IPOs, internal networking, and emerging capital markets, as an example. And he wants to connect with someone on the director level. Once he submits his form, which on average takes about 4 minutes to complete, Jam then goes and finds those people within the organization. So who are those other individuals? And then the way we've built the user experience so far is actually to take place within your company's calendar system, right? So as knowledge workers, we live and die by what is on our calendar. And so by integrating into that workflow, employees already, as a consequence, know how to use Jam. And so what would happen here is, based on those interests, right, that Rattler said this would be most useful for my time and what I'm interested in getting connected with, we would set up a 30-minute calendar invite based on his availability. For example, here he's been connected with Robin, who is someone on the director level and works within emerging capital markets, and then as well as Grant, who sits on the TMT team. Rattler's going to treat this, as well as Robin and Grant, just like any other calendar invite that they get on their daily basis. And then once it's finalized, it kind of leads up to the magic of why Jam exists, where Rattler's going to take, that group is going to take 30 minutes and then leverage that conversation, access the information of the people that they've already indicated that would be the best use of their time, right? And so Jam's going to send along talking points, as well as more information on who these employees are to make the most of a useful conversation. And of course, we've already built this option over the past year, but now it's the default that as everyone is working from home, face-to-face also entails embedding either a Zoom link or a Skype link for these conversations to take place. After that Jam session, everyone's going to provide a little bit of feedback, and then we take that feedback and push it directly to business leaders, right? Where we can show you high-level usage on things, obviously how many people are using it, the breakdown of people using it, the sentiment of how people, the value that they've gotten from it. But we can actually even take a step further and start to visualize the lines of communication that Jam is establishing that otherwise didn't exist for the bank or within the organization. And so talking a little bit about these cases of what success so far has looked like for us, Jam we first found our footholding in fast growing technology companies, right? So like Piano, like Nexium, like Outdoor Voices. And these were the companies that worked really, really hard to build a culture that attracted and retained some of the best talent. And now they were staring at a growth path of doubling or either tripling their headcount. And they looked to Jam as almost an insurance on their culture and connection across the company. Right. And so though we found success there, what we're really excited about and what we're on the tail end of wrapping up is we actually found a pretty strong use case in the enterprise world too. And recently on verge of concluding a pilot with a Fortune 500 investment bank who came to us with the pain point of, hey, we're not only losing a lot of junior talent, but we're also losing deal flow across the bank because simply no one is talking to one another, right? People don't know what other people in the company are working on, as well as who are these other humans. And so like I said, we're on the tail of wrapping that up. And one of the key metrics, especially in the enterprise world, that we track and look towards is defining success. Is do people now, after using Jam, have better access to their coworkers, and as a proxy of that, to the information, the people that they need to do their best work. And the 96 that we've tested so far of users reporting yes after their Jam sessions is something that we're really excited about. And like I alluded to this earlier, but we can actually start to visualize what that looks like, right? And driving more connection across the bank, and that these are all groups before Jam that didn't really have a reason or an excuse to kind of connect outside their immediate silo or their immediate world, but we can actually start to visualize now what connection looks like. And it's been really interesting over the past few weeks, given that obviously this is an old institution, massive institution that was not well optimized for working from home, and now their hand was forced. And Jam is kind of worked seamlessly and taking that experience that was primarily office based, and now is working across North America within the bank for employees that are sitting at home. And lastly, what we're excited about, what we've seen so far, and I'll be careful for any statisticians in the group to not prove causation here, but the correlation that we've seen as Jam has gotten more footholding in the bank and moving up, and as we see an increase in our NPS, we've seen a positive correlation with the rise of the employee experience, right? Which we started talking about as something that is incredibly noisy on how can Jam be the tool that helps employees cut through that noise and start to find the people, the information that they need to do their best work. And so obviously we're all here because we're trying to make sense of kind of the crazy times that we find ourselves in. And we'd be ecstatic to add value to any organization that is going through the growing pains right now of how do we scale connection and collaboration as now all our employees are working remotely. And so if you're an Office 365 shop or a Google shop, we have a turnkey solution that we can set up in the next 20 minutes if you wanted to. But obviously understanding that they're bigger, more dynamic companies, we have the experience of working with that Fortune 500 institution on building something customized, whether that's to your exchange or specific matching algorithm, or even to back-end analytics and reporting. And so obviously we'd be happy to talk through any of that. The last thing I'll leave you with, we've been sounding this alarm over the past year with Jam, but even more so now in a time of social isolation, access to our coworkers and connection to our coworkers is more important than ever. And we believe Jam's the best solution that can facilitate for companies. So with that, I will say thank you, and I am looking forward to any questions.
That's a great image at the back there. Thanks, Shay. Hey, we've got two questions. One has to do with the recommendation engine, and how do you determine the efficacy of that, and what are the criteria that it works by?
Yeah, so right now we've prioritized connecting people across organic silos, right? So connecting people that work on different teams, different offices, and a different tenure within an organization. But as I kind of alluded to on the last slide, especially if you're a big company, right? Think thousands of employees where a blanketed matching algorithm doesn't work. We can work together to fine tune on what are the biggest pain points, right? On how people are naturally siloed, and then fine tune that into what the algorithm is, who the algorithm is connecting across the company.
Yeah, so client specific, but I imagine that as you get more people onto the platform, it gets smarter in various ways.
Exactly.
In terms of are you able to share some high levels on pricing structure?
Yeah, so So we have taken this on a case by case basis, especially kind of in the enterprise world, right? I think for the self-serviceable model that we do have, of if you just wanted to get something up and running, right? Say within a small section of just a sales team, right, of a couple hundred people, we've priced that for that turnkey solution in the ballpark of 400 to 700 bucks a month for the unlimited Jan sessions, unlimited users, and those analytics and reporting. Where it gets interesting, the conversation is open, and especially now, today's times of a bigger need. If there's interest around a customized matching algorithm and how we implement it, those numbers would fall from there just on a customized solution. But that's the ballpark range we've typically worked in.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for the great pitch. Thanks for spending the time with us this morning, Shay.
Yeah.
For our attendees, we've got the poll up. So please take a look at that, and we can connect you directly afterwards. But otherwise, we'll certainly send the contact information to everyone after this session. So thanks again very much, Shay. And we're going to hop on to our next startup. Thanks for spending the time.
Yeah, appreciate it. All the best.